And good afternoon again, everybody. I'm Kelly Goodman Schaefer, President and CEO of the Bedford County Chamber of Commerce, as we continue our Government It's Your Business speaker series, which of course we've transitioned to online programs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And this afternoon, we're very pleased to have the opportunity to discuss Pennsylvania and Bedford County Conservation and Recreation with DCNR Secretary Cindy Adams Dunn. Before we get to our program, we would like to acknowledge some of our special guests that we're expecting today. Tanya Clark from the Office of Senator Langerholtz, Tammy Hess from the Office of Representative Topper, Betty Slayton from BCTA, Deborah Horner from the Cambria Region Chamber, members of the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee, Bedford County Farm Bureau, who are our partners in all of our government affairs and agriculture programs. Just a brief introduction of Secretary Dunn. Governor Tom Wolf appointed Cindy Adams Dunn to be the 6th Secretary of DCNR, confirmed in June of 2015, marking her return to the agency where she'd worked under 3 governors in multiple positions over the previous 2 decades. Previously, Secretary Dunn had served as the President and Chief Executive Officer of Penn Future, a statewide environmental advocacy organization. Secretary Dunn has also held leadership roles for Audubon, Pennsylvania, and the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay. She holds a bachelor's and master's degree in biology from Shippensburg University. She and her husband, Craig, reside in Cumberland County. And when not championing the efforts of DCNR, as you might expect, she enjoys the natural and recreational resources that the agency works hard to protect and promote through hobbies, including birding, canoeing, hiking and fishing. And we are very delighted to welcome Secretary Cindy Adams Dunn this afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm really delighted for this opportunity to speak to all of you. I travel through your area a lot, and I find myself getting off the turnpike more and more at Bedford because of your offerings, and it really expanded over the last 10 years. It's really a nice little downtown with nice walkable options. And of course, we at DCNR have a lot of state parks right around you. I'll talk about that a little bit. But you're really a gateway for travel up Lincoln Highway and many other interesting spots, Flight 93, et cetera. So I've just seen your area grow and prosper and change, which is really nice to see over the time. I've spent a lot of time going through Bedford throughout my life because my grandmother lived in Johnstown. She's gone now, of course, but getting off at Bedford and going up 56 was the route we took many, many times every year. So I'm very familiar with your area, really enjoy it, really like it a lot. So I could have the slides, please.
Yep. Let me share my screen and pull up your PowerPoint for you.
Okay, appreciate that. And
Yep.
Using some slides here, partly so you have something to look at, partly to keep me on course here. Again, if I could have that next slide, please. I think most of you know DCNR, but I'll just go through, and from this graphic from our webpage, some of the programs that are on the next slide. We have the largest public landmass in the state of Pennsylvania is in the management of DCNR. We don't say DCNR lands because these lands belong to everybody on this call and all Pennsylvanians, all 13 million Pennsylvanians, but we manage them for the public. We have 121 state parks, 2.2 million acres of forest land. We're a very infrastructure heavy organization. People don't think of DCNR as a buildings and bridges and dams organization and roads, but as you can see, we have a lot of infrastructure, which will fit into something I'll be saying a little later. But in terms of these parks, Shawnee State Park, obviously very near and dear to those of you in Bedford, is one of our larger ones. It's got 3,900 acres, and it's got a very large lake, 450-acre lake. So obviously it's quite a hub for recreation, both in terms of visitors, to the area, but also in terms of local folks traveling to that really nice park, very large park. Blue Knob is a whole different experience. I mean, Blue Knob, obviously up on the Allegheny front, offers a little more solitude, a little more wilderness. And of course, for those who ski, offers a really nice, interesting ski slope. It's called a reverse ski slope in the sense that the built infrastructures down up at the top, and you go down and you go back up, as opposed to starting at the bottom and going up on a lift and coming back down. But it's It's an interesting place with a lot of other recreational offerings like fishing and hiking. And it's a great, as a bird watcher, it's a great bird watching park. And it's the Allegheny Front there provides a migration route for things like golden eagles, which incidentally are migrating right now. And then we have Warriors Pass State Park on the Raystown branch. Again, a nice little park with many, many trails on the meandering Raystown branch. It's really interesting and unique, and also got a lot of native wild plants because of being, near the near the river so closely. We work to conserve land and water resources. We are the Commonwealth's conservation agency, so we conserve land. We give grants for locals to preserve land. We work on the forests of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We help private forest landowners, and we of course manage the state forest lands. But when we think about the importance of that, Pennsylvania, it means Penn's Woods, Pennsylvania, and our natural habitat is forest, and private landowners need and can use a lot of help with their forest. And we're also in charge of the native wild plants, and we also coordinate biodiversity with the Game Commission and Fish and Boat Commission. Going on to number 3 there, we are, I'll be talking a lot about outdoor recreation because of its tie to businesses, but we're the state's recreation agency. We lead recreational planning for the Commonwealth, and we strive to provide outdoor recreation experiences for all, not just for people visiting parks, but we have an incredible array of recreation opportunities in Pennsylvania. If you just think about Pennsylvania with our mountains and our rivers and our parks and our forest land, I'm not going to disparage any other state, but when you think about the states around us, in comparison, we have a lot to offer. And therein lies the opportunity for recreation, outdoor-based recreation that we enjoy so much in Pennsylvania. The 4th thing there is we help with vibrant, livable communities. Many people don't know that about us. They think of us as simply outdoors, but when you think about how the public recreates, a lot of that recreation is very close to home. It's small local parks, it's local trails, and local playgrounds and such. And so we, through our grants program, are able to assist communities with their local parks and playgrounds. We have a nice grants program I'll be talking about a little later, funded by the Keystone Fund and Environmental Stewardship Fund, that reaches all counties of Pennsylvania and many, many communities. There's 6,000 local parks in Pennsylvania, so that really adds a lot to our quality of life. In the 5th there is we promote and develop sustainable infrastructure. As the Commonwealth's Conservation Agency, we feel like we should model green practices. So you'll see us with solar arrays, electric vehicle charging stations, green infrastructure like like native plantings and such. And that's because we model it and educate about that. We also contribute to the economy of Pennsylvania, and this is what we'll focus on a lot today. Again, we really fuel our outdoor economy in Pennsylvania. That's something I know your chamber is all about. You can tell by the way you framed your business around the opportunities built by the outdoors. So we'll talk a lot about that in the future here. So if I could have the next slide, please. So when Kelly first reached out, we talked about talking about like how the outdoors have really boomed during the pandemic. So going back to March, it was we all remember when the pandemic first hit, when we had more of a stay-at-home situation. But early on, from the very beginning, Governor Wolf and Dr. Rachel Levine from Department of Health determined that being outdoors was essential. If you remember early on, you could certainly go outside, go outdoors, leave your home to get groceries, you could leave your home to get prescriptions, and also leave your home to take a walk. Outdoors was recognized as essential from the very beginning. And so DCNR's public lands have been open, And as we could determine how to do it safely, we reopened buildings so that people could have access to the amenities that were needed in state parks and forests. But what we saw from the very first weekend was a real boom in attendance. It was amazing how people really showed up in high numbers. And there's a number of reasons for this. Number one, like a lot of other things were closed. So in the practical sense, a family with children wanted to go somewhere safe. Number two, the outdoors is safe. If you're outdoors, socially distanced, if you wear a mask when you're not socially distanced, or even when you are, wear the mask, um, that can be safe outdoors. And I think people recognize that right away. And so, and people needed an outlet for the stress, and people needed access to physical exercise. And we know, and I'll talk about this a little later, we know that outdoors and time spent in the outdoors, exercise in the outdoors is a big stress reliever. And that has been very important to people's mental and physical health during the pandemic. But we've had a remarkable year. So we started tracking the attendance pretty closely. And normally on a normal year, we might see 37 million attend our state parks over the course of a year. We're on track to see an increase of 8 million people. So we'll be well over 40 million, probably at 45 million. That's up more than 30%. And when you stop and think about it, I mean, Pennsylvania is a state with 13 million residents. So when you talk about 8 million additional visits to the state parks, that's remarkable. And I mean, that's not counting the rails trails, that's not counting the local parks, that's not counting people taking a walk in the state forest lands, that is just the state parks. So this phenomenon of people flocking to the outdoors is amazing. We know that it's had a positive impact on the recreation businesses. Bike sales were up by 120%. They're saying some of the people in the trails movement used that bikes with a new toilet paper, because people couldn't get toilet paper first, and later they couldn't get bikes. Kayak sales were up 85%. And just Kelly and I were talking before this began. I mean, almost anything that related to the outdoors, outdoor equipment of any kind, was hard to get. RVs, tents, grills, things that people use in the outdoors. The manufacturers and the distributors had to really pick up their game to provide for people. So that's been a remarkable phenomenon. And we were talking in the beginning, will this continue? We think it will, because back in 08, when we had a recession, we saw a big uptick in people vacationing closer to home and going back to camping at their state parks and spending time at their state parks, and also Pennsylvania amenities, because they couldn't, in the recession, they couldn't afford perhaps to do their typical vacation that they would do out of state. And that those higher visitation numbers stayed with us. People just rediscovered that they love Pennsylvania, rediscovered there's a lot to see in Pennsylvania. And of course, we're in driving distance for like 80 million people, and we're in a 6-hour drive. Pennsylvania, especially there in Bedford County, you're really well positioned there off of 70, positioned for a lot of metro areas to visit. So we think that this visitation will stay with us post-COVID, and that this outdoor habit that people have gotten into for the first time or gotten back into will stick with people. I mean, after all, by now they've bought the equipment. If they finally can get their kayak and they can finally get their bikes, they can finally get their RV, they'll be back. If I could have the next slide, please. So anyway, so the economy driven by the outdoors is probably much bigger than most people realize. There's an Outdoor Industry Association that estimates economy driven by outdoor recreation. And the Outdoor Industry Association named Pennsylvania the 5th in the nation in outdoor industry spending. We generate $29 billion in consumer spending. It generates $1.9 billion in tax revenue. This is tax across the spectrum, and directly supports 250,000 jobs. So this is much larger than most people realized. But when you think about Pennsylvania, it's not a surprise that we're so high. Again, we've always been a hunting and fishing state. We're very active outdoor people. I mean, Pennsylvanians, love their ATVs, their trails, their bird watching, their hiking, biking, you name it. So it shouldn't be a surprise, I guess, that it's a big part of our economy. Just looking at our own grants program at DCNR, in terms of direct leverage, our Keystone Grants program, our Environmental Stewardship Grant program, well, we give a grant. It generates $3 in local investment, and then whatever is built, whatever asset is built, the park, the playground, the trail, then that's what generates a lot of local economy and pays back. So it really is a investment in a good economy, a good quality of life. We've also studied just with Penn State, the state park visitors in the parks, and that study was, we narrowed the scope to not include even things like RVs and such, just some of the basic direct visitation spending, the food you buy, the gas you buy, stuff like that for a state park visit. But even that generated $628 million directly to local businesses every year, and supports almost 10,000 jobs. So we find that across the spectrum, recreation is truly big business, and Pennsylvania is uniquely positioned to capture more of this because of our natural assets, and then this backbone of recreation infrastructure that we already have. 121 parks, 2.2 million acres of forest land. There in Bedford, you have really Glitzen State Forest, and it's very very interesting, diverse public lands with a lot to do. But sadly, we have a backlog of infrastructure of about $1 billion in our parks and forests that we're behind on investing. So again, investment from state dollars is critical to help address this backlog, so that this asset can keep on attracting people, frankly, and then building not only the quality of life, but attracting the tax revenues that come back to the Commonwealth based on this investment of dollars. Can I take the next slide, please? So we're, like I mentioned earlier, we're the recreation planners. We just completed a 5-year state recreation plan with the other agencies and with a fairly large panel of the general public of people from all kinds of recreational backgrounds. And the new recreation plan points a direction for our next 5 years. It's focused on providing recreation for all citizens, to really bring out, this is funny, this was developed right before the COVID crisis hit, but the goal in the beginning was to provide recreation for all, to really pull out all those 13 million Pennsylvanians out to the trails, out to the parks, and really give them access to the part of Pennsylvania that they really own. It's focused on mental and physical health. One positive aspect of the outdoors, and I've heard this, we've all heard it from friends and family, that with the stress of the COVID crisis, the stress that people are feeling because of job situations due to COVID, the stress that they're feeling because of perhaps being in a crowded house with the spouse and the kids, everyone trying to do their business, from home. People really need the outdoors more than ever for mental health. And it also points to the economic value of recreation and the need to invest in recreation, so that so that we can continue to benefit and continue the economic growth from that. Also, the plan calls for some implementation steps on technology and understanding the role of technology in recreation. Interestingly, we're working with the Bedford County Commissioners right now on broadband access in your county. Bedford County is using some CARES Act funding to rapidly expand broadband opportunity in the county. I think this is going to be important for a lot of the small businesses that support recreation throughout the area. If I can have the next slide, please. So we operate through partnerships. DCNR, from the beginning, 25 years ago, was built on a paradigm of using partners to get work done. So we have a broad partnership program. We're able to fund it through the Environmental Stewardship Fund. And these partners help us provide opportunity for Pennsylvanians. And one partner in your area, the Lincoln Road Heritage Corridor, comes right through Bedford. Of course, the Lincoln Highway, Route 30, goes across the nation. But that's just one local partner we work with in your area. There are many more. But across Pennsylvania, we have these partnerships that we support through Environmental Stewardship Fund. But anyway, the partners help us. They can be a local municipality, county, help us deliver conservation and recreation on the ground to all citizens. Without this, and you mentioned the friends groups, Kelly, without these partnerships, DCNR couldn't really deliver our mission. Because again, there's so many people to have outdoor recreation and conservation experiences. It's impossible to do it with just the staff of DCNR. So this partnership is really a very rich and deep partnership, and it's something that has stood the test of time. And we're pleased and proud to be able to support through our grant funds. If I could have the next slide. The grant program is funded through Keystone Fund and Environmental Stewardship Fund, and we have technical advisors. The Parks and Recreation advisors are in regional offices across Pennsylvania. Everyone is on work from home status, so they're very reachable by phone. Again, you can see there for Bedford, it's Lori Kiefer-Yike. Lori's a phenomenal, experienced, she's a regional supervisor, in fact, for the whole central part of the state. And she's a great contact for you if there's anyone on here that wants to discuss the grants program. The grant program opens for applications in January and closes in April. So if there's any project that anyone wants to do, especially like a municipality, Lori would be the one to talk to. If I get the next slide, please. So one thing we're working on is one of our strategic initiatives. As we were talking about Blue Knob and snow, climate change adaptation and mitigation. As the state's conservation agency, we felt we should get a grasp on climate change and its impact on our mission. So when you think about our mission, it's the forests of Pennsylvania, it's the large landscapes and recreational assets. Climate is changing recreation a lot. From snowfall in wintertime, which has been a bit of an issue, to heavy rain events. The rain hits kind of in interesting patterns now. Instead of being more steady and spread out, it hits in heavy deluges, and then periods of dryness. We experienced a period of dryness this summer, but in 2018 it was just it felt like it rained all summer. But over the weekend we had a heavy weather event. I'm not saying this particular one was climate driven, but it did highlight a problem we're experiencing in Lake Erie. Presque Isle State Park, which gets 4 million visits a year, was underwater, had record high water levels in Lake Erie. And the high water levels in Lake Erie are being driven by climate change, so it's having a direct effect on that park. So our adaptation and mitigation plan is designed to get ahead of this issue, to, number one, reduce our carbon impact through the energy we burned. I mentioned we're a heavy infrastructure agency, so we're reducing our carbon footprint. And we're also talking about how to adapt and mitigate for a changing climate. Places like the Allegheny Front there in Bedford County are going to be very important. That high elevation is going to be the direction that biodiversity migrates. Everything from important soil microbes to birds and trees and wildlife will go to higher elevation or northward. So having that green structural integrity of something like the Allegheny Front or the other mountains in your area could be very important in a changing climate. But in terms of the recreation world, we'll have to adapt our work at DCNR that everything we're seeing with the hot the hot dry late summers of recent, is people want to keep swimming longer into the season. Interestingly, part of this year's picture has been people have kept with summer activities all the way through September, and October's camping reservations. Camping has still remained big, and camping reservations in October were 80% higher than last year. So again, people are really changing their pattern of recreation. If I could have the next slide, please. So we have some resources. The Commonwealth DCED has a web page to help businesses with resources to deal with COVID. If you do pop onto this website, it's just everything from, you could open and print down signage, so you don't have to design your own sign about, wearing a mask, or is good tips and a directory of ideas for businesses. So again, that's run by DCD, but and I just checked before I got on to see if it could be found if you just Google it, and it does pop up pretty easily if you don't want to write down this contact. But we thought this would be helpful for the businesses to have access to. Have the next slide, please. Oh yeah, one thing I did want to mention, everyone's talking about the election, which was one thing on the election that wasn't part of the conversation in Pennsylvania. Across some other states, there were ballot questions on about funding for recreation and conservation. And interestingly, and that's one area people agree with, voters across these various ballot initiatives voted in favor of $3.7 billion in new funding for conservation and recreation. So the public really does agree on government investment in this area, because everyone benefits and everyone understands the benefit, and it does lift the whole economy. So that's one area of agreement that seems like we could sorely use right now across the spectrum of people's interests. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
I'm going to stop the sharing of my screen so we can put everybody on camera.
Oh, good. There's Meredith. Okay, good.
Maybe everybody would join us on camera, because I think Secretary Dunn would appreciate seeing everybody's faces. And I think that you're all able to do that yourself.
Yeah, I'm a people person. I really miss seeing people. So, it's been hard for me.
So Secretary,
I miss my staff.
Yeah, you miss your team.
Yes.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about expecting outdoor recreation to continue to boom after the COVID situation. What kinds of business opportunities do you foresee maybe coming out of this resurgence of the usage of state parks and outdoor recreation?
I would, it's funny. I'm sorry. There's a call coming on my personal phone. I don't know how to shut this thing down, so I'm sorry about the competing noise going on here. So I think anything that supports people's outdoor recreational opportunities, from camping to gear. I'm really sorry about this noise in my background here. I don't know how to deal with it. I have to get up and shut it off. So I had a sorry about that.
That's okay.
Oh, Meredith, since I have so much noise, let me mute out. Could you jump in on that so I can mute out so I don't distract everybody with this?
So jump in on, I'm sorry, Cindy, what was the?
She was talking about outdoor or business opportunities coming out of an increased usage of the state's recreational assets.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be something people will be paying attention to. So those entrepreneurs and those investors see it as a business opportunity going forward. There's much more demand. I mean, we already are seeing, particularly in our smaller communities, people taking advantage of the opportunity. I know there was one community where they, live right off of a rail trail. There was not a bike shop, and everybody was looking for a bike, or repairs, just something to support people that were coming on their bikes. And so different things like that, I think we're going to see more of. And I think it's really important that we think about how we can support those kinds of businesses, because they do have particular challenges, whether it be like a seasonal, oftentimes they're seasonal kinds of things. So I think support for that industry and what they deal with will be important. And I think talking to DCED about that and the resources that they have and maybe how we can tailor them for this industry sector would be something we might want to pursue.
Yeah, now I'm sort of back without the distraction of the multiple calls coming in. One tour that I did this past summer, there's a company in Phillipsburg that makes climbing gear, and maybe Gretchen or Meredith can remind me of their name, but they decided to keep their seamstresses on who make this high-end climbing gear. They decided to not outsource their sewing, which can be done a lot more cheaply, obviously, overseas. It keep a high quality brand and market it. And it just showed that there is a niche for manufacturing in a place like Pennsylvania. Even though it's hard to compete on the price line, you can compete on the quality line. People, I know REI is generally part of this this group here, and there's other outdoor providers who you make a play for quality, because people will spend the money on quality outdoor gear and really like that buy local aspect. What's the name of the company up there, Meredith, that we visited in Phillipsburg? I
I knew you were going to ask me,
know.
and it just went out of my head as soon as you
I should
asked me. So
remember.
I was trying to find it for you.
I'm not a climber, so I don't remember it, but it struck me as, they went high on quality to keep manufacturing, and it is more expensive, but they were booming. They couldn't keep up with orders. They were getting international orders on their climbing bags, climbing pads, things like that. Again, it's an interesting niche, but I think manufacturing, it'd be great to have back in the Commonwealth, but obviously the niche is probably a narrow one. It would have to be well understood by people who understand that business. If we would have had, now we do, kayak manufacturing is done in this country. It's pretty simple. It's extruding plastic, and that is done in places like North Carolina and other. I don't think we have any manufacturers in Pennsylvania right now, but bicycles, we asked some of the bike shops, and they couldn't get their parts because they were overseas. Bike parts got outsourced a long time ago. So it's one of the reasons bikes were so hard to get a hold of, because the component parts had to come from overseas, and those, so if there's any opportunity for manufacturing, again, that's really DCED's area, but our partners over at DCED are very interested in supporting startup businesses and really setting up, especially manufacturing. So if we could identify it, creative niches in recreation manufacturing, that would be phenomenal.
Kelly, are you in Q&A now?
Yeah, you can go ahead, Betty.
Okay. Hello, I am Betty Slayton with the Economic Development Agency in Bedford County Development Association.
Good.
And we are working very closely with DCED on a lot of things, certainly their loan programs, but also their new initiative, this livability marketing initiative, where they're really promoting the great outdoors, the quality of life in Pennsylvania. And we in economic development and the chamber, we all need to work together, because that's what employers are looking for. That's what they want when they're looking at putting an REI distribution center or a Walmart distribution center in. They want to know that it's a cool place to be and you have outdoor recreation. So I guess I would just say two things. One is how do you interact with the marketing of the quality of life? You certainly have the inventory of it.
Right.
And secondly, I just want to do an educational, I'm not sure you're aware that we have a new glamping, River Mountain, that just opened in September in Bedford County, 150 acre, unbelievably cool resource, and we'll send you more information on its sidebar. But any kind of marketing that you can help rural communities to get the word out on the quality of life vis-a-vis outdoor recreation?
Good. Number, yeah, you pointed out to something I meant to say. So the other big economic factor in outdoor recreation is just that very point you made. People will choose to locate where it's cool. I mean, and where it's cool is where you can recreate. You're along a trail. You're near woods. And I think the COVID crisis may actually have driven people more that direction, because more companies are deciding that people can work effectively from home and allowing workers to perhaps live where they want to and telecommute. So that opens up opportunities to really attract people into Pennsylvania's high quality communities. We do have a higher quality of life, frankly, in Pennsylvania than a lot of our surrounding areas. And a lot of the rural communities, smaller rural communities, have a higher quality of life in many ways than places where, you know, people have to get in a car and wait in traffic an hour to get to work. So it may give us some advantages in Pennsylvania, but again, like creating those places and marketing them. So Gretchen Leslie is on the phone here as well, and she is our liaison with DCED Tourism. We actually have one of the Commonwealth's most popular media, like online media, social media pages. We did an article a month ago about the forest trails of Pennsylvania. We had like 90,000 hits, so we do get a good social media following on our recreational offerings. I don't know, Gretchen, did you want to add anything about DCD and tourism marketing? And I know we do work closely with them on the community work that you also mentioned.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yes, we do work very closely with DCD. DCD recognizes that outdoor recreation is a core pillar of its marketing and has been for a number of years as part of their marketing strategy. They've actually done some market research during this pandemic and I've asked people, and some of you may have been in on that survey, about what outdoor recreation means to folks that are in the business industry. So they are kind of crunching those numbers now and looking at what people have said about outdoor recreation so they can fine tune their outdoor recreation messages to even more clearly and concisely, and creating some real niche for Pennsylvania as we move forward. But they do recognize outdoor recreation as one of their bread and butter components to attracting visitors, not only within the state, which is where they're focusing most of their marketing efforts right now, that close to home recreation, but also outdoor travelers, and knowing that, as Cindy mentioned before, we are in close proximity to tens of millions of people in a very drivable distance in our surrounding states. So we do have the ability to attract far and wide based on our outdoor recreation assets. So stay tuned for more to come. I don't want to spill anything that DCD is working on, but I know that they did do some surveying about 5 months ago and are working towards coming up with a fine-tuned outdoor recreation brand, which, by the way, is one of our recommendations in the outdoor recreation plan, which Cindy had touched on briefly.
Secretary Dunn, I wonder if you could give us your thoughts on the current state of the budget. And one of the things that we heard was, outdoor recreation, state parks, they're kind of discretionary. The line items might not be there to the degree that they have been in the past. And interestingly, in a year where state parks are being used so much more, how do you see the state budget shaking out for your department? Oh, we can't hear you. Let's try to unmute you if we could. You're still muted. Nope. Can anybody hear her? Or is it just me that can't hear? Yeah.
How about now?
There you go. There you go.
I just had to click it a number of times. It didn't show as muted, but it just had to be clicked a few times. I don't know what's with my machine here. But yeah, so we'll know something this week. It's being discussed right now in Harrisburg. Some of our money is soft money. It's oil and gas. It underlies our budget. It's not general fund. And so every general fund dollar really does count. And additionally, our programs depend on so-called special funds, the Keystone Fund and Environmental Stewardship Fund, that especially for our grants program, but also for our park and forest infrastructure. And all of these are on the table. As you recall, we only had a 512 budget, and they're discussing the 712 budget right now. So it's critical for the Commonwealth to, beyond DCNR, but to be able to move forward with a full budget so we can pull out of this recession and really keep Pennsylvania chugging forward. But for DCNR, we have increased demands that we're really trying to meet. And we had experience, even in the last grant round, we had experienced an increase in demand for the grants program, which was good. Number one, people recognized the importance. Number two, local governments were clearly recognizing the importance because they were providing their match. They can't do the grants unless they have a match. So they were continuing to invest. So it'd be sad if the state couldn't invest if we didn't have a Keystone Environmental Stewardship Fund or our general fund to support our staff. We are stretched very thin staff-wise. We can really, we're at nearly a breaking point on the ability to operate parks and forest land with the vacancies that we currently have because of this, frankly, this tough time we're all going through. But we're going to try to hang in there and keep delivering the public service and hope that the budget's there to allow us to do that.
Years ago, there was this campaign, and I don't even know if it was a DCNR campaign or if it was just a general, trying to help state parks use them or lose them, kind of reminding people how important it is that we have these great assets in our county, and how, there are a lot of states where you're not within 20 miles of a state park. I think every resident in Pennsylvania is within 25 miles of a state park. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. And that investment, if you look at it like a goose is laying golden eggs, so that small investment, really our general fund is 1/2 of 1 penny of the general fund dollar. That small investment yields all these returns to the Commonwealth economy. We saw the earlier slides about the 29 billion to revenues in Pennsylvania. So it's a small investment for that return. And then on top of that, you get the quality of life, which again will lead to economic growth because of people choosing to live here.
Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask Secretary Dunn or her team? You're welcome to take your mic off or unmute and ask any question you might have. Oh, I saw somebody unmuting. Well, you were talking about climate change, and while that is, I'm sure, a concern, it's also a little bit of a silver lining that we get a longer state park season for things like camping and kayaking. I know Shawnee was sold out many, many weekends this year in their camping as folks, couldn't go to Florida, couldn't fly, places.
Right. One thing I will mention, one of the things we're doing for climate change and for stream quality is putting buffers along streams. I did forget to mention this, but your area has been particularly good at some of these conservation practices through the Conservation District and other partners. But the Juniata River's got a lot of buffer projects going, Western Pennsylvania Conservancy and other partners in the County Conservation District. So some of the things we do for clean water and for local benefit really help climate. And of course, any forest land that can be preserved as forest, any private forest lander who can buy more forest land and they can put it up for timber management and do it sustainably, it's still forest. So it's important to keep forested land forests. So a lot of the things we do for climate change are practical solutions for a lot of other things that actually help make quality of life and cleaner water locally.
Thank you. Anybody else with a question or comment?
This is Diana McClure. I'm with Keller Engineers. We're a private consulting firm, and we have been working on an open end with DCNR for several years now and have done some river trails and hiking trails and some bridges inside state parks. And this summer we did a rest area inside a local park here, and it's been a fabulous relationship, and your staff has been wonderful to work with.
Oh, Cindy, you're muted again.
So I just wanted to say thank you. My family and I love the parks being in there. Our staff loves to do these projects and be in the parks, and we greatly appreciate the relationship.
Good, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is weird. This sound keeps cutting out for me. I should have mentioned that the project money we get through Keystone Environmental Stewardship goes right into companies like yours who do the work. That relationship is critical, and I think the companies love working on parks and forests because we get a very high quality work, from companies like yours. And of course, I think it's fun for the companies to have a place they can take their kids out to show them, the bridges and such that you built. So, yeah, thanks for that good work. And that's something, again, big for the economy. And these engineering consulting firms generate a lot of economy across Pennsylvania. That is the good news story about having old infrastructure, because when you invest in replacing it, it puts jobs across Pennsylvania in every community.
And Cindy, before we let you go, would you want to talk a little bit about wintertime recreation? Because, obviously Blue Knob is a big deal here in Bedford County, but it feels like this year winter recreation is going to be even more important than most years.
Yeah.
Because people are going to probably be stuck at home even more so with the pandemic and that cabin fever situation.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the creative folks here to help us think that through. Obviously, people need an outlet. They need to get outside, and we know that in addition to snow-based recreation like snowmobiling and skiing and cross-country skiing. Of course, again, right up there in Allegheny Front is a lot colder than down in the valley there. But bird watching is good. Heritage tourism, going to see and tour outdoor heritage sites, of which Pennsylvania's got so many. A lot of our rail trails feature, things with a story, like infrastructure with a story. Kind of just travel tourism, like the Lincoln Highway, for instance. Just auto touring from visiting parks, getting out, taking a little walk, going to see something interesting, maybe packaging and talking about the full range of experiences someone can have by making a drive to your area. We're going to, double down on giving people ideas on the outdoors. We're going to have some, as the fall goes on. Right now, people are, hunting, fishing. We've had a real resurgence of fishing. Fish and Boat Commission did a fall stocking. Mm-hmm. And so we've seen a lot of uptick in fishing at the state park lakes. Hunting is big. Of course, this is the first year with Sunday hunting, so they'll have a boost there. I think the fishing licenses are up 25%, hunting licenses are up 11%. I heard from Fish and Boat and Game. So that means there's a lot of sportsmen out there. And then again, winter hiking safely and just outdoor travel.
Thank you. Anybody have any closing comments or last questions? Well, thank you to everyone who logged in today. We are going to make this program available on demand on our website and YouTube as well. Thank you, Secretary Dunn, for being with us today. Thank you to the Bedford County Farm Bureau for sponsoring all of our government affairs programming. And we'll be sending information about our next one out as soon as we're able to set it up. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Okay, and sorry for my mute problems here.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.